Rancho Valencia, California. 2 weeks ago, I said on Twitter that this new Lexus LC500 was the very best Grand Tourer available on the market. I said the Japanese had finally bested not simply the Germans with regard to luxury, refinement, and power, but also the people that invented Grand Touring, the Brits. But then I plopped myself into Aston Martin's V8-propelled DB11 and discovered Wahoo is the very meaning of a perfect Grand Tourer. Sorry, Lexus, however, your reign would have been a short one. If you imagine the V8 DB11 is often a Q-trait Aston Martin on par with all the woeful Toyota-based Signet, reconsider. In my recent experience, the DB11 V8 will be the one to have. It weighs under the V12 version, plus some issues there was with the V12 DB11 have died. Virtually every part of the car has become touched, retooled, and refined, except due to the truly magnificent and sensual shape. That, thankfully, continues to be left alone. The engine is perhaps the biggest change between your two cars. Gone could be the Aston Martin-built twin-turbo 5.2-liter V12, as well as in its place is usually a Mercedes-AMG twin-turbo 4.0-liter V8 churning out 503 horsepower and 498 lb-ft of torque. It's slightly completely different from the 4.0-liter mill seen in much from the Mercedes-AMG lineup since it gets different engine management, a wet sump oil system rather than a dry sump setup, and many internal amendments. Backing it up is usually a Fzaurst 8-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox sending capacity to the rear wheels, while noise funnels via a wildly different exhaust that has a sound that now befits an Aston Martin. Due on the engine swap, the V8-powered DB11 sheds almost 230 pounds. The car's overall weight distribution changes from your V12's 5,149% front-rear bias to 4,951. Additionally, due towards the Hofmarlin-sized fat loss, leading and rear suspension is retuned as could be the software that controls your vehicle's driver settings. The result is really a DB11 that's simply wonderful. The V12 DB11 is often a good Grand Tourer, but areas of its on-road personality don't always feel settled. Its 600 horsepower twin-turbo V12 is hugely impressive in a very straight line, however the chassis doesn't feel neutral or confidence-inspiring in my opinion. Meanwhile, the transmission felt incongruous together with the level of refinement Aston sought to supply. Shifts felt as an old-school single-clutch gearbox, plus the paddle shift actuation itself felt as if it took a long time. The V8 model solves those issues, and then some. It's a fantastic Grand Tourer for some time road trip. This means you will also take a look at a racetrack in the process and hold its own with regards to performance. Bombing up Palomar Mountain in Southern California, my introduction for the DB11 V8's manners helped me a believer. Through the chocolate-toned leather with the steering wheel, the meandering nature with the road ahead transmitted to my hands with aplomb. It isn't as direct or as communicative as Porsche's best hydraulic steering units, but it's a huge improvement on the V12's slightly vague nature thanks towards the revised suspension. A far more rearward center of gravity due to your V8's placement inside engine bay, plus the 200+ pounds removed from the automobile's nose. The car is surprisingly agile first that still weighs a few pounds under 2 tons. Hustling the V8 DB11 inside the barren mountain road, it almost taken to mind the sense of an generation Mazda MX-5 Miata. Like the Mazda, there's a compact bit of pitch and heave but a playfulness and capability that you simply instantly bond with. Mercedes-AMG's previous generation naturally aspirated 6.2-liter V8 sounded the business enterprise, having a raw intensity we yearn for presently. But now, toy trucks where displacement is down plus the number of turbos expires, engine notes are actually somewhat sacrificed. Such could be the case with all the 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 in Mercedes-AMG applications, but that's not the story together with the Aston Martin. This car is meant to be heard. Aston Martin's engineers knew that one of the main issues lots of people had using the V12-powered DB11 was its lack with the signature Aston Martin V12 whale. It lost component of its character, but that isn't the case together with the Mercedes-AMG V8. With changes made on the engine's original design, and a unique exhaust, Aston's engineers made the V8 sound positively lovely and perfectly appropriate for an Aston. A deep burble greets your self-start up, also it isn't much like the normal AMG warble. It's deeper, more resonant, sort of welcome to your party. The engine's throaty V8 bellow continues until about 4,000 revolutions per minute, where it erupts right into a glorious yowl that continues until redline. Mercedes-AMG should ask Aston Martin the actual way it did this and use it to every 4.0-liter AMG model. In relation to outright speed, if you're aiming to cross Europe at 200 miles per hour, this isn't your vehicle. The DB11 V8 is powerful and possesses the ability to push passengers past its leather-covered sports seats. It will also beat the Lexus and some other adjacent automobiles, such as Corvette Grand Sport and Jaguar F-Type. It needs V12 capacity to compete while using new Ferrari Portofino, unfortunately. Aston Martin has recently taken criticisms from the V12 DB11 to heart, while leaving the very best parts of the vehicle absolutely pristine. Both the lining and exterior stay. The factory can wrap the interior inside a multitude of colored leathers and also a host of trims that are included with crushed carbon fiber, real wood, and aluminum. The seats remain beautifully built, with cushions that conform perfectly for your posterior as either you rail your vehicle through a tight switchback or along a lengthy stretch of the motorway. Throughout daily with this DB11, I traveled over 400 miles. I went across the Pacific Ocean, drove on California's bustling and tried to traffic-laden I-5 freeway, gunned to your very top of Palomar Mountain, headed down toward Borrego Springs and over the barren desert wasteland near to the Salton Sea, and back from the undulating roads of just one of California's state parks. Through everything, the vehicle grew and grew and grew on me for the point that I considered how much money I could get for the kidney. Perhaps this may be the car Aston Martin needs to have built first. If it had, I would not have access to proclaimed the Lexus LC500 the king. That's failing to take anything away through the LC, as Lexus did a superb job by it. But Aston Martin moved the goalposts with all the latest DB11, a wonderful GT. It's a cushy cruiser, has to be able to light up canyons and serpentine mountain roads whenever you feel the need for speed, and has now the same kind of palatial appointments you'd get in Windsor Castle. I guess I'll ought to retract my tweets. 2018 Aston Martin DB11 V8 specifications. Price: $201,820 base. Engine: 4.0 liters twin-turbo 32-valve V8 503 HP at 6,000 revolutions per minute, 498 lb-ft at 2,005,000 revolutions per minute. Transmission: 8-speed automatic. Layout: 2-door, 4-passenger, front engine, RWD coupe. EPA mileage: NA LXWXH 187.0 by 76.7 by 50.7 inches, wheelbase 110.4 inches, weight 3,880 pounds, 060 miles per hour, 4.0 seconds, top speed 187 miles per hour.